Welcome to our third session on the church and finance. We've heard from two experts in the last two sessions discuss overall responsibilities of the treasurer and about the importance of expected ethical behavior on the part of all involved in the finances of the church. The fiduciary or sacred trust that must be modeled for society in a local church is an assumption we all make and hopefully live into.
As a reminder, the guiding principle for any discussion of finance in the church is that how we manage and spend our money reflects who we are. For this reason, the treasurer must always act in the best interest of the church. In this session, you'll learn how a local church budget is made and what role the treasurer plays in setting up that budget. Finally, you'll follow up your learning with discussion questions that are pertinent to you and your congregation.
As we all know, giving to our churches is more than a modern-day consumer approach to a service provided, but rather it's a spiritual calling and response to God's love and grace. Let's hear more about how the local church treasurer handles the finances of the church.
Hi, my name is Lenee Erickson, and I've been asked today to talk to you about budgeting. And I think I have just a little bit of expertise in that area, having been married for 41 years and have children, and so budgeting for a home. And I was the PTA treasurer at our local elementary for several years, and also I've served on a lot of committees in the church area where we provide input to budgets, and so I think that just gives me just a tiny bit of expertise. And so we seem to talk about budgets whenever we want to spend money, and whether we're at home or in the church, and how we spend our money really reflects who we are as individuals and as the church. Now, the main purpose of a budget is to forecast income and expenditure that the church is going to have. And it's a way to provide a model of how your church is performing in the financial area. Having a budget helps the church have control over expenses, and it can also help indicate where extra efforts are needed to increase income for those bigger ministry projects.
The vision of the church is how you as a congregation respond to God's call. It's God's specific purpose for a specific church in a specific context. But what will your mission look like when it is lived out in your church and your community? Vision releases people in the church to contribute in innumerable ways toward the success of a shared dream. Ideally, the church creates a budget based on the vision of the church and what is needed to achieve the purpose of their ministry. In reality, however, many churches create a budget based solely on the income of the church. They limit their vision of God's calling by shackling a budget to constraints that don't serve their common goal. The purpose of a church budget is to make possible the financial aspects of the unified vision of its parishioners so they can answer God's call to ministry.
A budget begins with a prospective amount which includes all the donations given by parishioners on a weekly basis, whether pledged or habitual, and the estimated loose change amount that has been given in the past. These amounts are typically determined at the end of the annual stewardship campaign. The stewardship campaign is not the responsibility of the treasurer, but the finance team. The team, together with the pastor and the administrative team, discuss the vision for the next year based on the expected income.
The offering is the most steady income in the local church. Parishioners are encouraged to pledge annually. Weekly offering is collected by ushers at Sunday morning worship and then counted by two people who are unrelated. A third person, who is not the treasurer, deposits the funds into the church's bank account. An important key ethic is that no one other than the responsible counters should be aware of offerings made by the people of the church. The treasurer then reports the annual income to help formulate the budget. Every penny spent must have a transparent journey. That is what the treasurer does for God's kingdom.
We will discuss each of the following special kinds of donations in the next video: endowment, wills and trust, designated, special events, and interest. The first item on the expenditure side of the budget should be the pledge to annual conference, to which your church belongs. Typically, the amount is 10%. Each annual conference guides its churches with what should be given. The secondary category for expenses is the staff, both clergy and laity, which includes compensation, insurance, taxes, housing, etc. Primarily, laity in the small to medium-sized church work part-time and are paid hourly wages. Wages for clergy are clearly stated in the clergy compensation form, which we will discuss in a subsequent video. The third category is all the items to operate a building over the month and year. For example, electricity, trash removal, lawn care, snow removal, cleaning, insurance, phone, internet, office supplies, whatever it takes to keep the building in good repair in order that you can do your best ministry. And the fourth category is where our hearts lie. It's in the mission and service of the church, bridging the church with the world in life-giving ways. For example, money for mission trips, money for curriculum, which continue to inspire all ages, money to purchase supplies for outreach, worship, and other parts of our essential ministry. Of course, the inevitable plumbing problem, furnace issue, or internet failure would always be lurking, but planning a good budget to put money away for emergencies like those provides a notion of fiscal responsibility.
Thank you, Lenee, for sharing your knowledge around church budgets with us. Budgets are so important, not only at church, but for our homes and businesses as well. The ability for a local church community to decide its priorities when it comes to spending all the monies that the congregation gives to the local church is so exciting. For me, it's like an important puzzle that is exciting and life-giving.
As you work toward budget making in your own congregation, reflect on these questions. What is the most important expenditure of the local church? Why? Is your church giving adequately to your annual conference? Why does the local church need money? Where does the majority of the church's money come from week to week? What is your response to someone's question regarding the giving of another parishioner? Who has access to the records of the treasurer? Where are those records kept? And finally, what is your church's vision? Does your budget reflect your mission? How? What would you need to change to make that happen?
Thank you for joining us for this third session on church and finance.